Mabrika. Welcome, Soul Tribe, to this episode of Deep Soul Awakenings. Get ready to step into a place of visibility where your heart and intuition are your guides.
What's up, Soul Tribe? Welcome back to this week's, I'm lying, this monthly. I'm sorry. We went from weekly to bi-weekly to monthly. And I apologize. And I love you guys. But I feel like monthly feels right. So I'm going to go with it. So welcome to this monthly episode of Deep Soul Awakenings. I'm your host, Millie Franco, of course. This week we have the lovely Kendra Valentine from Blackbird Soul Healing with us again to talk about all of the things. Full disclosure, we never plan what we're talking about. We always let it flow because, at least in my opinion, I believe that Spirit will always guide us to the right conversation that most of you need to hear in order to receive the words that we have with wisdom and resonance. So that's what we're going to go with. So hi, Kendra.
Hi, honey. How are you?
Good.
I
Good,
know.
but I can actually say good.
Yeah, for sure. And then, also full disclosure, we were getting into the conversation that was like, oh shit, we need to record this.
Yes, so we are
For
here.
Yep, so we are here. And we're talking about, service and that balance of, being in service. And, you were saying that, we have to be of service to self first. And yes, 100%. Like, I agree with that 100%. And for me, the the continued brushstroke, I'll say it, I'm not going to measure if it's deeper work, more shallow work. It doesn't really matter, is the willingness to receive someone else's service, right?
Mhm.
And I was saying, like, it's like in ceremony, if an angel comes to try to help me and I am just stuck in this, I got it. I'm gonna be of service to myself. Then I'm not taking away anything from that person per se, but I am blocking their ability to experience being of service to someone else.
Yeah, and I mean, especially
Right.
to you, because we all love you, clearly. I have yet to meet anyone who hasn't met you and is like, "I love her." And I'm like, "I know." Um, so it's kind of like you in this space are like our elder. You're a teacher, you're a guide. Less teacher because you always put us in a situation to kind of teach ourselves, and then you just kind of guide us and give perspective. Um, but in that, you give so much to us that we find ourselves when we are angeling, if we see that you are having a hard time in any kind of way, we want to help you. Like it's our way of like that reciprocity of being your
Mm.
guide when you're such a lovely guide to us.
Oh, I love that. And it's one of the things that I have wrestled with. I used to struggle with it for sure, but now I'm just sort of like every now and then I get into like a wrestling match with it where I'm like, can I receive? And it's like, can I receive when it's desired or when it's just like it's soft and it's not necessary, right?
Yeah.
Or or do I only have to receive when I'm hanging off the edge of the cliff? Like,
Yes.
that's the only choice
Yes.
that makes sense.
Plant medicine will have you hanging off that cliff
Hell
very
yeah.
much.
And yeah, and ego and narrative and programming, will have me going, no, 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 I'm good. I got it. And in so much as in many of those cases, do I got it? Sure. Yeah. And I don't have to.
Yeah.
As something as benign and simple as like, hey, do you need me to fill up the water jug? No, I'll do it. As opposed to, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. I would love to not have to get up right now. Please do fill it up for
Right.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I find that
And
I
and
do the
that's
same
funny.
thing.
Yeah. Well, you do. My experience of you, Millie, is that you do you do thrive in that place of being of service. And like me, um both ends in the middle of your candle can set on fire
Yep.
by your own hand if you don't, if you're not mindful about it,
Yeah.
right?
Because I'm always in ceremony and I'm like, well, I'm okay. And I know I can handle this. And I know that I'm good. And I know if I'm in a hard spot, I know how to get myself out and I know how to progress through it. So I don't want to take any help away from anyone else to give it to
Mm,
myself because I don't need it. And then last ceremony, it got to a point where I was just like, no, like I remember I went to the bathroom and I saw Orange, who I love, my beautiful sister, our beautiful sister Orange,
mm-hmm,
and I saw her and I was like, hey, like I need you for like 10 minutes to just sit with me while I process some stuff and just hold my hand because I just need someone to hold the space for me. And
mm,
I was like, yeah, I really need to stop telling myself that I have to do this alone because we're not alone ever,
mm-hmm.
actually.
Well, and that's so funny that you just said that, because through the course of, I'm not gonna say my whole life, right? Like that's just exaggeration, really. But for the course of the last couple years, at least, like I've come face to face with, my desire to. I'm not in a partnership, but my desire when that time is right to be. I'm going to use the word good partner, but not. I don't intend it to be in like a judgmental way, because I'm
Yeah,
I'm some good shit, right? But
yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, yeah, to be like a partner who can receive, right? To be a partner who can ask, for what they desire, as opposed to always asking for what they need, right?
Yeah,
Like to be a partner who can say, who can demonstrate my love and trust for that other person by allowing them to be of service. And I've not always historically been good at that. I'm like, I got this shit. I got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I got everything. I got it. I got 14 grocery bags on either arm because
yeah,
I am team one trip, right? And a whole ass other human standing there going, "Can I take something?" No, I got it.
yeah.
I got it.
That reminds
Me.
me of the thing that you posted about being strong, being able to be strong, but not always wanting to have to be
Oh,
strong. And I
listen.
I feel like for a lot of us, we were raised by very strong women, and our generation stems from the women who had husbands who all went to war. They were all drafted. So they had to do everything because there was no male counterpart available there to help at that time.
Right.
So, especially in my family, it started where we had to do everything. We had to make sure everything was done. And then when the husbands came back from war, we missed them so much. We wanted to cater to them. So that mentality of let me still do everything kind of continued to be passed down. And I know for me too, it would be like, I don't have a partner, but with my younger son's father, he would be here, and instead of I would ask him to do something, and if he didn't get up to do it right away, then I would just do everything myself because that would be my excuse to do it myself. Like, well, I asked him and he told me to ask for help, and he didn't get up and do it in the 5 minutes that I said to do it. So I'm gonna get up and do it myself because he's just gonna do it wrong anyway. And then I would be upset with him, like, you don't help me. And then now I'm like, oh my God, this poor guy.
We are the same.
But we have to start, especially as women, we have to start thinking of like, where does this need to do everything come from? Because sometimes it's not necessarily something that's ours, it's something that's been passed and that we're inheriting that is just like, okay, well, I don't know where this thing came from, but I'm going to do it. And then it branches off into every other aspects of your life until one day you're
Well,
like, oh shit.
exactly. Well, you had said something just a moment ago that struck me, and I don't disagree with it, but also I think there are shades of gray around it. And so you
Yeah.
said, like, we were raised by strong women who did all the things. And it's like, is that a strong woman, or is
Yeah.
that a woman who is living in the toxic feminine of I have to do all the things, right?
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of both? if you see my eyeballs being distracted, I got this little jumping spider who really apparently wants to have a whole ass conversation with me. And I have to tell you, sir, I don't want to have a whole ass conversation with you right now, because you all in listener land are going to hear me lose my shit if this thing jumps in my general direction. I'm just giving you that PSA right now. So, so my thing is like my mother, for example, she worked until she was 81, and people immediately go, "Oh, God bless, that's amazing." I'm like, it is, but also
Is it really?
it wasn't necessarily because she needed to in any type of way. It was because my experience of my mother is that she puts too much weight on the idea of working, defining value.
Yeah.
And if I'm not working, what good am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And even her, it's funny to me because we actually just recently had this conversation where I'll just give Cliff Notes. She had surgery at one point, and then she was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, and I had to take her to a follow-up appointment. And at that follow-up appointment, her primary was like, it's time for you to retire. And if you're not going to retire altogether, it is time for you at minimum, to go to part-time. And my mom was like, and at the time she was still in that, like, she was recovering and she wasn't still not feeling so well. And she was like, no, yeah, I hear you. Oh, you're probably right. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, tell her again, right? And then she got to feeling better, got to feeling more herself, and
And it went out the door.
was like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And she goes back to work. Now, the funny thing about that is recently, and this was a few years ago, recently, when I say recently, like a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
she was here visiting, and I reminded her of that conversation. It was relevant to whatever we were saying. I was like, just like your doctor said, you should have gone part. She was like, I don't remember that conversation.
Wow.
And she does, like, it just erases right in her head, right? And so bringing it back to what you were saying is sometimes I have to recognize that pull up my bootstraps, muscle it through, like do all the steps and things is not my manifestation of strong.
Yeah.
For me, strength would be, saying, okay, it's harder for me to say, hey, I can't do this, or I don't even desire to do this, or I'm depleted. There was a time me asking you for 15 minutes of grace would never happen. I just wouldn't have brushed my teeth. I wouldn't have done all the stuffs and things, right? I just would have been like, well, I have to be there at, X time, and there's no room for grace there.
Yeah. Same here.
And so it's, it's growth.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, steady, but growth.
So we started this conversation because we were catching up a little bit before we started recording, and I was telling Kendra, I'm in a space right now where I've realized that for the majority of my life, probably, let's see, I was born in 85. My first niece was born in 91, my nephew in 95. So since probably like 7, 8 years old, I've been of service in some type of way, whether it be helping with kids or helping to clean the house or doing various things. And as I got older, that all got more intertwined in my life, where I was consistently babysitting, or I was helping with something else, or I was taking care of my grandmother. And then I was also helping with my nieces and my nephews. So now it's like I'm 39 years old, I have 2 kids, 10 and 3, and sometimes I'll find myself where, maybe I'm sitting and I'm praying, and one of them will come up to me and ask me to do something, and I'll find myself so frustrated. And then I'll stop and I'll think, and I'll be like, okay, this frustration is stemming from me trying to do something and have alone time. and never really having been able to sit alone and have that time and do what actually feeds my soul. Because
Mm-hmm.
before, I had told myself, oh, well, I went out and I partied and I had fun and I drank and I did all this crazy shit before my kids were born. So I lived my life and now it's okay that I have kids and I'll be fine. And now I'm realizing that all of that was never living. It was
Mm.
never really enjoyable. It was hard, to be honest, because all of those years that I told myself I was enjoying life, partying hard, I was looking to escape all of the things I didn't want to face, all of
Mm.
the abilities that I have, all of the, well, if I'm pissed drunk and I black out, then I can't feel any spirits around me and I sure as hell can't see any of them. So it's fine. And now I'm here and it's like, actually, no, what soothes my soul is sitting in prayer with my ancestors. What soothes my soul is the little bird feeder that I have in my window, that my little birds chirp in the morning when there's no food to wake me up. These are the things that feed me. But now it's trying to balance well, these are my kids. And although, yes, I did spend so much of my life helping others with their children, I also need to be of service to my children. But I guess finding that balance of, having time to myself, having time for the kids, and helping them to understand that I am not always to be accessed. You do not always have to have access to me in every moment of the
Ooh,
day.
I love that you use that word because I'm gonna say something that uh, I've been having this conversation recently as well, and you know, it boils down to this for me: unconditional love and unconditional access are different, and nobody, no one has unconditional access to me, including my spirits, where I'm just like, listen, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I am fucking tired, you know?
Yep.
And
And
that
they
has
will come at
been,
3 a.m. That
yeah,
is their
and that has
favorite time.
been great. But that's been like this dance of like where like my spirits will be like, well, then we need you to spend some time with us. And it's like, okay, I will. And then if I do, then I've done my part, they've done their part, right? But where
Mhm.
sacred time is concerned, what I had, because I used to get mad frustrated. I have 4 children. I have adults, 30 and 28, and I have teens, almost 16 and 14, right? So it's like 2 different lifetimes.
Yeah.
And in my earlier lifetime with my adults, I too would get super frustrated, like, "Fuck, leave me alone. Like, I'm just trying to spend a little time," but then also beat myself up,
Yeah.
because I'm supposed to be of service, right? Now what I've done, and it's taken years and it's, taken courage to, recognize what I desire and et cetera, and work alongside the fact that sometimes life just happens and shit, needs your attention at that moment. Where my kids know, like if I say to my kids, I'm gonna go sit with my ancestors, they know that means leave me all the way the fuck alone, unless somebody's hair is on fire.
Yep.
Like, don't come in here talking about Caden took the last tater tot. I couldn't care less. This is my sacred time, right? But whoever that person is, are also sacred to me, sacred enough that if something happens that really requires my attention, you can come and get me. And then those also become teaching moments because like they didn't get it from jump. A hundred
Yeah.
percent I've been interrupted for Caden took the last tater tot,
Yeah.
and that's like a teaching moment where I can say, okay, like as much as I understand that that doesn't feel good, does that require emergency care? Should I call the paramedics? No. Okay, so then that's not something you should be bothering me about. So then that's a learned moment.
Yeah.
So the next time I say to them, hey, I'm gonna go sit with my ancestors, they know that, oh shit. And I'm not going all like, I'm not going for 14,000 hours,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
That's what I tell them. Half an hour is not going to kill you, my love. You'll be okay. I swear.
Exactly. And then I do my part. And then, like, what I do with them is when they're with me at the house, because I share space and time with my co-parent with them. But when they're with me at the house, like, I don't just sit with my ancestors and then bounce to sleep.
Yeah.
Because I always sit with them. I usually sit with them at night, and I'll come out and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm done with what I'm doing. And if you need me, I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep now, or I'm gonna lay down. If you need me, you let me know.
Yeah.
And so it just becomes, and I do that pretty well in the context of, like, my children. Listen, you put intimacy in the mix there, and sometimes I don't even know how to act. Sometimes I'm just like, like, where's the line here? Where's the line? The lines are so blurry. But for me, they get blurrier and blurrier the less that I am in service to myself, and the more, that toxic servitude, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in some ways, when we're in that toxic servitude, we're also feeding any story that the other person might have about being incapable.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. It's true. And then it's also, I feel like so many of us struggle with the aspect of boundaries because we were raised, or at least for me, I was raised in a place where there were no boundaries. If my mom called or came and I wasn't there and I didn't do what she said, it was a problem.
mm,
So it was like we were raised to not have any boundaries. We were raised to always be accessible. And then as I started learning and I started growing, especially within the past couple of years with boundaries, I find that I've struggled so much with feeling guilty for setting the boundary, feeling guilty for
mm,
not giving that access. And I always have people who ask me, well, what do you do and how do you do it? And I'm like, listen, it gets to a point where you decide what the boundary is. Okay, after 9 p.m., I'm not going to answer anyone because that's my time and I'm not accessible and that's it. Set your
yep,
boundary, stick to it, and don't let anyone cross it. And if they cross it, don't even answer. And then the next conversation, remind them, hey, my boundary is that after 9 p.m., I do not pick up the phone. I do not have conversations. But the
right,
boundary isn't going to stick if you don't stick.
right, correct. And that's where, again, and it's so funny, like, you and I have conversations, right, when I'm just, it's just always at the right time. I've been talking to people I work with and myself as well, and I've recalibrated, and I feel really comfortable in the space I'm about to talk to you about. But sacred no.
Yeah.
Tell people, until you get your sacred no down, like, don't even worry about your sacred yes. Your sacred yes is born from your sacred no, in my experience of it.
Yeah. Yeah, my
The
mind too.
sacred, yeah, the sacred no is like, that's the foundation of the house. That's the immovable, like, no matter who the fuck you are, like, that's period, right? Once I have my sacred no in place, which, again, foundation of a house, my sacred yes can build the most gorgeous house ever, because my sacred yes then is very clear
Yeah.
about the boundary, right? If my sacred no is like wet cement that hasn't, like, my sacred yes, I end up with a house that is not stable.
Yeah. That has
I end
all
up with
my
a
initials
house,
written all in it because I saw the
yeah,
wet
and
cement
it
and I
ends up
came.
with a house, yeah, that's uninhabitable.
Yeah.
And then it ends up with a house that when people enter the house, more than 50% of the time they're leaving with a resentment because I'm pissed, and
Hmm.
I lash out based on this was my boundary, and they're going, what boundary? There ain't no
Since when
boundaries
you
up
have
in here.
boundaries? Yep.
Right. And I too have gone through varying times of where I feel bad for setting certain boundaries. And I can call that out, be like, I know that I taught you, because sometimes boundaries change too,
Yeah.
right? And so that's just the way of my boundaries. Like, and there's sacred no, and there's conditional no. And what I mean by that is, like, a no for somebody that is a friend or a loved one might be different than my children, right?
Yeah.
But then I do have my sacred no, the no. This is a no, no matter who you are. right? And I think that's, going through that discomfort, being willing to talk about it, being willing to receive someone else's discomfort
Mhm.
without the need to like pull out a sword and be like, well, these are my boundaries. Cause I used to be really good at that, like we had to fight about it until
Yeah.
I recognized that there's nothing to fight about. And P.S. I, boundary, I've told people and myself many times, like boundaries and walls are different, but I will build a wall. Absolutely. Sometimes you need a load bearing wall.
Mhm.
And that's such a no that I don't even want to say that is a wall. I'm going to build a wall there. Um, yeah. And so it's to me, it's all about, being willing to have the courage to move through that discomfort, maybe even when it's appropriate, articulate that discomfort to somebody else. Like, I feel really uncomfortable setting this boundary, but it's an important one for me, you
Yeah.
know, because I think sometimes when we afford ourselves and somebody else the opportunity to understand why, right? Why is this important to you? Not that I have to, they don't have to know why in order for me to give myself the grace of the boundary, but sometimes that allows growth just within the relationship. Like, why is that boundary important to you? And it's like, well, because I sit with my ancestors at night, and if I'm continually, pulled away from that, it's, or I whatever, it doesn't matter. Or I watch Netflix at that time, and that's what the hell I want to do.
Doesn't matter what you're doing as long as it's important to you.
Right. And then them understanding why it, helps them like, I don't know, I think it builds a place where they can choose
Mhm.
to honor the boundary, thereby in my experience, honoring the person and the relationship or not, right?
Yeah.
And then also, because certainly I've had people who like, if I'm not going to answer a call after a certain time, if I answer that call, it's because on the assumption that there's something up,
Yeah.
because also my closest relationships know that if you find yourself in a position where you need somebody, like whatever that is,
Yeah.
you're stuck in your head and you're about to go over the edge, or, your car just broke down or whatever, you pick up the phone, I'm going to come,
Yeah.
you know but don't cry wolf too many times, because then when I see you call, I'd be like,
I'm not
nah,
gonna
bitch.
answer. I tell that to my 10-year-old all the time. If you, because he's discovered like the white lies, the so-called white lies.
Mm,
And he'll lie if he thinks that he's not gonna get in trouble. And what we always go through every single time is I'm like, hey, when you tell me the truth, are you in a lot of trouble? No, because I told you the truth. Okay. When you lie to me, are you in a lot of trouble? Yeah, you take away all my stuff and blah, 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 blah. Okay, baby. So then what should you do? Maybe you shouldn't lie. Maybe you should just tell me the truth. Because if you tell me the truth, I will always hold space for you. But if you lie to me, then I'm going to be upset because you lied. Why lie?
right.
Because I don't want to be in trouble. Well, baby, then maybe one, you should really think about what you're doing if you think you're going to get in trouble for it. Two,
Mm-hmm.
think about telling me the truth because I can hold more space for you and have more understanding of why it is that you did whatever you did if you're telling me the truth about it. And he's like,
Right.
oh, okay. But it's interesting though, because I know that when I was younger, I was very similar. And now I'm just like, "Ugh, don't lie to me. Just tell me the truth. We'll figure it out." But what you said before about the foundation, setting that foundation with the wet cement, it makes me think of the tarot card of the tower, and
Mm,
tower cards have such a bad rap because everybody's like, oh man, it's a tower. Look, they're jumping out. Oh my God, it's fire, it's chaos, Is that what my life is like? And it's like, no, actually, the foundation that you built is crumbling because it was not sturdy. It was not settled well. There was not a lot of emphasis put on the blueprints that you originally created. You kind of
mm-hmm.
half-assed it. And
Yeah.
now it's falling apart. And while it falls apart, is it going to be hard? Yeah. Are you going to get smacked to the ground? Yeah. But the beautiful thing in all of that is now you are that much wiser. You have that much more awareness, and you kind of have
Mm.
an understanding of how to set this foundation in a way where no matter what happens, no matter what fire comes, no matter what freaking crazy storm is thrown your way, now you know what to set in that foundation so that your foundation does not waver. Will a little bit of water get inside? Sure, but that water dries and it's easily, overcome. But that foundation is strong and sturdy, and having it collapse gives you the opportunity to rebuild.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on something you said just a moment ago about, because I too have children who, have dabbled in lies at varying shades of white,
All the
gray, or black,
colors,
right? Like
all the
all the
colors.
colors,
Yeah.
right? And I've had a conversation that I've said, well, like, I knew you were going to get mad. Okay, let me be mad. I can be mad.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be mad. If you did something that put you in harm's way, or you did something that put somebody else in harm's way, or whatever, I get, that's an emotion. The punishment, the redirection comes, when you tell me the truth of that. And, there's more space for grace. Now, when you lie to me, oh, then that's a whole nother layer, right?
Yeah.
Of anger and frustration, because it calls into question whether or not trust can thrive in our relationship, in the garden of our relationship.
Yeah.
Because I'll be out here swinging for you, like I'll be going to bat for you all day. And if I find that I've been going to bat on some bullshit, then that does not feel good.
Yep. That's
And
usually my fight with my son.
Yeah,
Because
it doesn't
I
feel
will
good.
I will fight everything for you. I will go to the ends of the earth for you. I love you. You are my child. Like, there's nothing that will change that. But if I'm fighting tooth and nail for something and you're lying to me about it and I'm over here fighting people on it, we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna be angry and upset. But worst of all, I'm gonna be disappointed in the fact that you lied to me, that I fought
Mm-hmm.
about it, and you did not tell me the truth.
Right. I've said to my children, and one in particular, my daughter, who used to struggle with addictions, and I say that not because because I can, because she, I have her spiritual permission to share that struggle. But I remember saying to her one time, and I don't know who was coming out my mouth because it wasn't an original thought, but whatever she was saying, she had lied about something. Um, which is a common knee-jerk reaction. You're struggling in a place of addiction. um I said to her, you must never mistake my willingness to die for you for my willingness to let you kill me,
Yeah.
because I am not going to let you kill me. Like, I'll die for
Yeah.
you all day, right? But I'm
Yeah.
not going to let you kill me. I'm not going to let you back me into a corner on some bullshit and have me expending so much energy that it just kills me. Nope. I'm a
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So, but that's, I mean, I say that now from the seat of, I'm half 100, you know, plus a couple, right? Like I've had a lot of life experience, and this is, nothing that I have learned has been learned in a nice little neat pile or
Oh,
in a
me
nice
either.
shiny container.
Well, because if it was, I wouldn't have learned it.
Shit, I am messy. It is muddy.
Oh, I
It
probably
is
would have tried to sell the damn container. Like, it's real. Honestly.
it
Oh,
just is. It's messy. It's muddy. It's I joke, but I don't joke. I don't, there's a lot of truth in jest, right? And I tell people I'm an experiential learner. You can tell me that shit is hot
yeah.
14,000 times, and there is damn near, if not assured, 100% chance that I'm gonna have to touch it before I go, oh damn, that shit is hot.
Or I'm gonna like try to touch it like really quickly to test
Yeah.
it
Oh, is
because
it But is it hot? Is it
Just
hot, or are you
maybe
just a
it's
punk?
hot to you, but it's not hot to me. And it's
Correct.
like, girl.
I know. Correct. It's like maybe you're just a punk. Let me touch it. Let me
Yep.
touch it. Ow, that's hot. I burned myself.
Yep.
And you got somebody else looking at you like, "Yep,
I just
I
told you
told
that.
you."
Yep. I feel like my spirits talk to me like that sometimes too, because sometimes I'm like, well, because I'm an emotional eater. And
Okay.
when I fast, I usually I'll have my eating window from like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then I fast the rest of the hours. It does my body
Mm-hmm.
well. I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in that amount of time, there is a limit to how much I can actually eat because you feel full and then you're full for a while. And I make sure that I try my best to eat healthier options. But then I'll
Mm-hmm.
have my days where I'll buy my kids some snacks or I'm feeling kind of funky and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna eat the thing. Like I'm gonna order like the Chinese food and I'm gonna get like the garlic sauce all over some freaking plantains because, that's my jam and that's what I'm gonna do. And in my head, I'll hear, hey, you really shouldn't do that because we know that it's like 5 o'clock right now. One, you're gonna have a stomach ache. Two, it's gonna open the door for you to continue to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Three, we know this is a pattern. And
Right.
I'm always like, yeah, yeah, I know. I'll be fine. I can always get it back. I always come back. And they're like, but you go to a dark place when you do this. It doesn't do you well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, it's okay. I'm going to do it. And then when it happens, like I can literally hear them in my head, like, your stomach hurts, right?
Yeah, ay,
It's
Dios
been three
mío.
days, right? Didn't I tell you? You know what, Mija? You never listen. And I'm like, I know that's not my voice. I'm being scolded. And then I'm like, okay, okay, you're right. And then I end up going back to my fasting and feeling good. But I'm like, there's always that moment. And I've learned that when it comes to things like that, when they speak to me, they have to kind of be like, yo, what the fuck? Because otherwise, when they're like, oh, honey, your stomach is gonna hurt, I'm like, nah, it's okay. I can take a stomach ache. But then when they're like, yo, your stomach hurts, right? You don't feel good, right? Maybe you shouldn't have done that. Then I'm like, okay, you're right. All right, fine.
Oh yeah, my spirit guides are real talk. They're not soft and fluffy. They're like in my face. They're like, so how'd that go? How'd that go? How'd it
Yeah.
do? How you feeling? What's happening? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because they're also
You know.
mirrors of us. So our
Oh.
personalities mirror their personalities, and in the aspects where we can be soft, they can be soft. But in the aspects where we are stubborn and there is nothing soft about it, in those moments, don't expect softness because the moment doesn't call for them to be soft.
Oh my
It's
God.
almost like it's like
That
they're
reminds
raising their children. We are their children in a sense.
that reminds me of a ceremony. God, this was years ago at this point. I had just did I had just I'd been angeling for like this long, like tiny little spit of time. And you take little angel's dose of medicine. And I was like, I was pushing the envelope a little bit, right? And I was like, let me just take a little more. Let me just take a little more. I guess I was on the fuck around and find out, you know, journey. Now it's relevant to mention like couple of the angels that were there as well were deep into a fuck around and find out journey because this one was over there smoking something, this one was sleeping, like.
Yeah, yeah,
And as you know, if somebody's going through a really challenging time, you can't leave them alone, right? You would bring them
yeah,
out of the ceremony room, you bring them into the VIP area, and they're
yeah,
they're just they're chilling. And so there was a person, and they were laid out, just not yelling, screaming, whatever. They were just like laid out, and they had been yelling and screaming. So I was sitting there just holding space, and all of a sudden the room just starts, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, uh-oh,
yeah.
uh-oh, right? And everything is starting to, shift and change. And I was just like, oh my God. And so I'm trying to do everything. I'm putting my wrists on the cold metal, like trying to like do human stuff. Cause I was like, I can't go there.
Without realizing you were transitioning from being a human.
Right. And I was just like, journey was coming,
Yeah.
right? And I was just like, and then I sat there, like I looked at the time and I was calculating. I was like, I think we only have about 90 minutes left. I was like, I can do 90 minutes. I'll be like, and I like sat, and I swear 1,400 hours passed. And I opened up my eyes and I looked at human time again, and less than a minute had passed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the whole be of service thing. So I'm literally like walking around like in the space, the ceremony's happening in the back. I'm walking around and I'm going, oh my God, Spirit, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I was like, I'm supposed to watch this person. And I know, like, I'm getting ready to purge. And I'm like, what the hell? And my spirit guide said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just trying to get myself together. What am I supposed to do? Like I took too much. I took too much. And now I'm, I don't know what to do. I took too much. And as clear as you and I are talking right now, I heard, do your fucking job. And
Yeah.
I went, what? And in that moment, I looked, and the person had sat up, and I was like, oh. And I went over and I was like, are you okay? And that person and we talked a little bit about them not feeling like, they belonged in life, and, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And not yada, yada, because I'm minimizing it, but just for,
Yeah.
the sake of
Oh,
moving through the story.
ceremony
And
is a place
yeah,
of
and
deep
yeah,
interactions.
I said to that person, I said, can I walk you back into the ceremony space? And they were like, yeah, I think I'm ready to go. I think I'm ready to, take my space. But it was funny because it had my spirit guide showed up and been like, well, it's okay that you took more medicine than you thought. Like I would have been in that spin, but they had to
Yeah.
do your fucking job. And I was like, oh,
Oh, that's
okay.
right. Right. And
Yeah.
it's and angels, by the way, guys, are helpers in ceremony, just in case you were wondering. But I feel like it's that aspect, right? Of like shifting your
Mhm.
perspective. That especially I know for me in ceremony, my first ceremony, at first all I kept thinking was, oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh my God, I'm so sick. So I was sick. It was bad. Um, I remember I had the poor angel helping me. Like I didn't even want to be by myself in the bathroom. It was horrible for me. And then one minute he looks at me and he goes, you're in control. And if you want to get out of here, you can get out of here. He goes,
Mm.
take some deep breaths and tell yourself, I want to get out of here. I'm okay. And I remember in that moment laughing to myself a little bit because at this time I didn't realize that it was that easy sometimes, to shift your perspective and be like, no, I got this. And then I was like, okay, fine. And I almost did it, I think a part of me to like prove him wrong. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden it was like I took those deep breaths. I heard music playing and I was like, oh, I really like that music. That music really makes me feel good. And I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm okay. I want to go back. I want to go back and sit. I'm not sick anymore. And then it was like this light just turned on. And then now in my everyday life, whenever I'm like, oh, I can't do this, it's too much, I'm like, no, you know what? Stop, take a few breaths. Do I really want to do this? Is there a purpose in me doing this? Yes?
Right.
Okay, then you know what? We're going to take some deep breaths and we're going to get it done because there's nothing that we can't do. And I continue.
Right.
But if in that moment it's like, no, you know what? There is really no purpose to this, and I just really don't want to do it, and it's not bringing me any time of ease or happiness or joy or anything, and I'm like, well, that's a sacred no. We're not doing it.
I resonate with that. One of my mantras that I use with people is, comfort is not overrated. It's not. Life is going to bring us uncomfortable shit that we have to navigate through, right? So when we can provide, when we have the resources and we have the wherewithal and we have the ability to provide ourselves with some additional comfort, then I say do it. Listen, when I set up my space as a participant in a ceremony, people are like, "Damn, that looks comfortable." It is. It is. I have blankets. I'll have like 4 different comforters, but they're folded up to be like makeshift, like
Nice.
mattress
Yeah,
type
I've seen
thingy.
people come in with mattresses, whatever
Girl,
you're
I will
comfortable
be
with.
comfortable because I know one of the reasons I'm there is to get out of my comfort zone, right? And so if I can provide myself with some physical comfort, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I will Comfort is not overrated. Life is going to dish out to us what it's going to dish out, and that's why I think that the it's 11:11. Of course it is as soon as I look at the time. Yeah, 11:11. That's why I think creating that foundation where we can be of service to self, where allowing other people to be of service to us helps disintegrate that idea that it always has to be a grind, that it always has to be doing and doing and doing. Sometimes I just want to provide myself with the most comfort that I can in that moment, and so that the rest of me has the bandwidth to do the thing that is being presented to me as an opportunity to do.
Yep.
So, mm,
It's that moment of rest, that moment of relaxation. Like I know for me, I struggle a lot sometimes. Like I'll have my days where I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I want to lay in bed and watch Netflix. And I'll feel horrible for laying in bed
mhm,
watching Netflix. And then now, as I'm continuing to grow and I'm actually taking a step back and looking at all of the things that I do,
mhm.
that's a form of self-care because sometimes I don't want to have to think about anything at all. And I just want to watch something that makes me feel good. I love Japanese dramas. For some
Mm,
reason, all of the ones that I find are all about past lives and incredible, beautiful loves. And right now, that seems to be the theme in my life. So I go with it. But I like to
love it.
watch a lot of that stuff because it makes me feel good. It makes me happy. I'll have my moments where I'm really into it and I'm crying with the characters and then I'm happy about it. But it allows me this space to be creative in a different type of way where I'm able to feel and experience someone else's creativity, but also in that same moment be creative myself because I'm feeling it in my own way and creating all of these beautiful pictures and ideas and feelings and concepts in my own way. So it's my way
Mhm.
of being in my body, being in my space, feeling what I feel, but I get to do it from my bed and I don't have to actually create the thing that is giving me what I'm looking for in that moment.
Oh, agreed. On Sunday evening, I sat with a person one-on-one in a ceremony space. I led them through a ceremony. And it wasn't particularly late. I mean, I got home probably around 11:30, which isn't crazy. I'm usually in bed before then, or I try to be, because my pattern, I could be up for a lot at night. But anyway, Monday morning rolled around and I wasn't feeling great. I wouldn't classify myself as being sick. I just wasn't feeling great. I was depleted, right?
Yeah.
And I was supposed to teach a yoga class on Monday morning, and I made the game time decision. I was like, no, I'm a no. And I notified the people and I said I wasn't going to be there, and they were all gracious and whatever. And I sat at home and I watched a couple of Netflix. So I watched, if you're familiar with the comedian Joe Coy. I'd only been peripherally familiar with him. When I tell you that I laughed harder than I laughed. I had to pause it a couple times. I watched 2 of his stand-ups. One is Joe Coy live from Brooklyn, which I'm gonna watch again because that shit was gold. Okay, it was gold.
You had me
And
at Brooklyn.
then, yep, and then I watched Joe Coy, Jokoy, Joe Coy, coming in hot. Girl, when I tell you that I was choking on my own spit, I was laughing so hard. Okay. I had to like pause it a couple times to get myself together. And that fed my soul. So if anyone of you
Mm.
knows Joe Coy, you let him know, bro, you are hilarious. Okay. Hilarious. I was dying laughing. My stomach hurt. I did a whole ab workout with the laugh that I did
I
that
love
day.
that.
But
I
what
mean,
I
that's
desired
real.
was, being fed with joy and humor
Mhm.
and just to be able to sit back and I got exactly that. I didn't desire to study or learn or, any of those things. What I just wanted was the act of being,
Yeah.
right? And receiving without having to do. And I promise you, that dude delivered it. Funny in ways that I haven't laughed like that in a very long time.
I love that.
So, me
Um,
too.
so with that, I think we are about at our end. Do you have
Yeah.
any last minute wisdom that you want to share or love
No,
that you want to give?
I think the only last minute wisdom that I want to share is, to practice, especially for those who have a problem, who have a hard time receiving, right? Practice the receiving. We all have divine feminine within us, all of us. It's genderless, right? Practice receiving. The divine feminine gets to rest in her power, which is something that a dear soul sister of mine told me one time. And when she said it, she could have been speaking Mandarin Chinese. I didn't know what the fuck she was saying. I was like, rest? What are you talking about? But that's where the divine feminine thrives. So just remember, you get to rest in your power. And so that's it. That's all I got.
I love it. And it's allowed to look different for everyone.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely allowed to look different for everyone. So don't let anybody tell you that the way that you rest is not the right way to rest if it feels good to you. Um,
Exactly.
so with that, I want to say that I love all of you very, very much. Thank you guys for tuning in and for tuning in for the whole episode with us. And as always, if there is ever a moment where you feel lost, remember that you can look up to the stars and your ancestors will always guide you home. Till next time, I'm sending you guys all so much love. Peace.
Ari Kamabu. Thank you for listening to this episode. We look forward to continuing to find our way back to indigeneity with all of you. May your heart continue to be your guide. And remember that whenever you feel lost, you can look to the stars, and your ancestors will help you find your way back home.